Hungry birds. The baby bird was in his nest. He was in his nest with his sister. Their nest was high up in the tree. They were waiting for Mama Bird. Mom always brought them food. They were hungry. When would Mom come home? Would she bring them a worm? Would she bring them a fish? Would she bring them a piece of bread? What would Mom bring them? They looked at the squirrel. The squirrel looked at them. The squirrel put a nut in their nest. The birds looked at the nut. How could they eat a nut? They didn't have strong teeth. The squirrel has strong teeth. The baby birds had no teeth. They had beaks, but no teeth. They heard Mom. They knew her voice. They knew the sound of her wings. She brought them some food. It was still warm. It was delicious. It was pizza. It was pizza with cheese. Baby birds love pizza with cheese. They were so happy. How delicious. At the bus stop. He looked at his watch. It was time for the bus. Where was the bus? He was at the bus stop. He stood up. He looked down the street. No bus. He looked up the street. No bus. Where in the world was the bus? It was time for the bus to arrive. He sat down on the bench. It was getting cold. The wind was blowing. He didn't have a jacket. He was wearing shorts. He was wearing flip-flops. His head was cold. His arms were cold. His legs were cold. His feet were cold. His toes were cold. His toes were turning blue. Where was the bus? He stood up again. He looked down the street. He saw the bus. It was coming. In a minute he would be on the warm bus. In a minute his nose would be warm. His hands would be warm. His whole body would be warm. How nice. The bus arrived. But it didn't stop. It kept going. It was the wrong bus. He looked at his watch again. Where was the bus? Brown and blue eyes. She had big brown eyes. Her sister had big blue eyes. Her brother had big green eyes. Her mother had a gray eye and a green eye. Her father had black eyes. Why are our eyes different? She asked her mom. Who knows, said her mom. Life is strange. It is full of mystery. This is a mystery to all of us. She asked her teacher. She asked the doctor. She asked the nurse. She asked the mailman. Nobody knew why her family had different color eyes. Finally, she asked the librarian. A librarian reads a lot. A librarian works in the library. A librarian is surrounded by books. Books have information. Lots of information. The librarian looked in all her books. She called other librarians. They looked in all their books. Still, nobody knew the answer. I'm sorry, little girl, the librarian said. Maybe someone will invent a computer someday. Then I will give you an answer. But for now, your big brown eyes and your sister's big blue eyes are a big mystery. Catch some fish. Let's go fishing, said the father. That's a good idea, said the mother. They put the kids into the car. They put the fishing rods into the car. They put the jar of worms into the car. They drove to the lake. The lake was huge. The name of the lake was Yellow Lake. It had yellow sand all around it. The sand looked like gold. But it wasn't gold. It was only sand. They parked the car. They got out of the car. They sat down on the sand. They put the worms on the hooks. They put the hooks into the water. They waited for the fish to bite the bait. They waited 30 minutes. Then one of the kids caught a fish. It was a trout. It was a rainbow trout. It had many colors, like a rainbow. But its belly was white. They took the trout off the hook. They put the trout into a bucket of water. The trout swam around in tiny circles. It was confused. Where did the big lake go? They caught 3 more trout. Then they went home. They had delicious fried fish for dinner. Can we go fishing every day? The kids asked their parents. Daddy likes beer. The little girl was thirsty. She wanted something to drink. She opened the refrigerator. She looked inside. She saw milk. She saw soda. She saw orange juice. She saw beer. She wondered what beer tasted like. Her daddy drank beer every day. Beer must be good. If daddy likes it, it must taste good. She grabbed a can of beer. She opened the beer. She smelled it. She couldn't smell anything. She swallowed some. Yuck, she said. The beer was horrible. How could Daddy drink that stuff? She put the can back into the refrigerator. Daddy could finish it when he got home. She grabbed the milk. She poured some into a glass. She added chocolate syrup to the milk. She stirred the milk. Now she had chocolate milk. She loved chocolate milk. Poor Daddy, she thought. He likes beer more than chocolate milk. Bears and a pig. The 3 bears left their cave. They lived in a beautiful cave. The cave was big. The cave was warm in winter. The cave was cool in summer. It was a quiet cave. It was a dark cave. They loved their cave. Today was Sunday. They liked to pick berries on Sunday. So they left their cave. They walked through the woods. They found a field of berries. Mama Bear had a basket. They filled the basket with blackberries and blueberries. Then they walked back to their cave. When they got inside the cave, they heard a noise. Who is that? Papa Bear asked. It's only me, said a pig. What are you doing here? Asked Papa Bear. I'm hiding from the farmer, said the pig. I think he wants to eat me. Papa Bear told the pig he could stay in the cave as long as he wanted. The bears shared their berries with the pig. Then the pig and Baby Bear took a nap together. A short plane ride. The pilot and the passenger got into the plane. It was a small plane. It had 1 engine. It was an old plane. The pilot started the engine. Are you okay? He asked the passenger. She said she was okay. They were flying to an island. The island was only 30 minutes away. It would be a short flight. She was a nurse. Her husband was a doctor. The doctor was on the island. The doctor needed some medicine. She had the medicine in her bag. The medicine would save a young boy. The young boy was very sick. The plane took off. The engine sounded funny. The pilot frowned. Is everything okay? The passenger asked. I'm afraid not, said the pilot. There's something wrong with the engine. We have to land. He landed the plane. The nurse got out of the plane. She looked around the airport. She saw another plane. This plane had 2 engines. She walked over to the plane. Is this a new plane or an old plane? She asked the pilot. The pilot said it was a new plane. Good, she said. Please take me to the island. A windy day. It's a windy day. The wind is blowing hard. Paper is blowing everywhere. The wind blew the man's hat off. It blew the woman's hat off. It blew a bird off the telephone wire. The other birds laughed. The wind keeps blowing. The trees are bending over. The people outside are bending over. The wind makes it hard to walk. The wind makes it hard to drive. The big trucks have to pull over. They have to stop on the side of the freeway. One driver did not stop. He was in a hurry. The wind blew his truck over. The big truck is on its side. The wheels are spinning in the wind. The driver was not hurt. He is waiting for a crane. The crane will pick up the truck. The crane will put the truck on its wheels again. The driver learned his lesson. He will never drive in the wind again. The wind makes it hard to fly, too. Pilots know the wind is dangerous. They do not fly their small planes in windy weather. They do not want to crash into the ground. A crash will kill them. They sit at the airport. They drink coffee. They wait for the wind to die down. Snowed in. More than 100 passengers got on the plane. It was a winter day. It was January. The weather was very cold. It was snowing. Ice was on the roads. But the airport was open. The big jets were flying. A little snow never stopped a big jet. Big jets fly all the time. They rarely crash in bad weather. They rarely crash in good weather. Big jets are very safe. The passengers got on the plane. It was 7 a.m. The plane was supposed to take off at 7:30 a.m. It did not take off at 7:30 a.m. It did not take off all morning. It did not take off all afternoon. The plane sat on the runway until 6:30 p.m. The passengers sat in the plane all day. The plane could not take off. The pilot could not see the runway. He could not see anything. The only thing he could see was his two hands. A little snow was okay. But this was a lot of snow. This was too much snow. But maybe the snow would stop. Then they could take off. So the pilot waited. The passengers waited. At 6:30 p.m., the pilot told the passengers to get off the plane. Everyone was happy to leave the plane. They went back into the airport. They waited for the snow to stop. But it didn't stop. It snowed for 2 more days.